Let's go!
Thank God it's Friday!
The guy! Drop it like Trump wants to drop the Epstein situation altogether. All right, power panel. Cenk Uygur, John Idola, Wosny Lambre. All right, John is of course the host of Damage Report. Check it out every day at 1 o'clock Eastern live. And Woz, senior writer at The Ringer, he's also got his own podcast. What'd you change the name to, Woz? Woz Speaks?
Woz Speaks, yes sir.
Crazy, Wizard of Woz. Come on, it's a layup, okay? So anyways, guys, huge show ahead today. So Trump, every day the panic gets larger. No, I'm not talking about Epstein, don't talk about Epstein, like it's hilarious. But today took an extra level. Today we went to 11, okay? Now we're talking about pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. What? 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 I can't believe that. What level of insanity are we in?
You were kind of actually speechless there for a second.
I am. I'm amazed by that. All right, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But speaking of things that are amazing, could Anna Kasparian have gone on Tucker Carlson's show? Yeah, and we've got some clips from that and some discussion of that. And I thought it was interesting and amazing. And so we'll have a fascinating conversation about that a little bit later in this hour as well. So let's get started. John, what do you got?
Yes, let's jump into the big story of the day.
They should focus on the fact that Larry Summers from Harvard, that Bill Clinton, who you know very well, and lots of other friends, really close friends of Jeffrey Summers, should be spoken about. Because, you know, Jeffrey Epstein should be spoken about. And they should speak about them because they don't talk about them. They talk about me. I have nothing to do with the guy.
Yeah, talk about Bill Einstein or Tim Apple or somebody, anybody who might be in the documents. We don't know, again, because that guy won't release the documents. These people who probably do have some connection to Jeffrey Epstein, obviously were nowhere near as close over the course of decades as Donald Trump was. And notably, neither Larry Summers nor Bill Clinton are actively involved in a cover-up of the entire thing. But sure, let's talk about them instead. Donald Trump would really hope. But he's got those individuals, and he's also got like sort of an amorphous group he'd like you to be interested in of hedge fund guys, just some big group. Take a look.
You should focus on Clinton. You should focus on the president of Harvard, the former president of Harvard. You should focus on some of the hedge fund guys. I'll give you a list. These guys lived with Jeffrey Epstein. I sure as hell didn't.
Oh, you'll give us a list. Oh, that's cool. I didn't think there was a list because you said there wasn't, and I'd like the list. Could I have the list? Could you give us the documents that all those names are in? Apparently, it's full of fascinating names we should be talking about, and I'm begging you to let me talk about them. Just give me the documents, and I will begin to do that. But I don't think you want to do that, actually. I don't think you're going to release those documents anytime soon. But anyway, Larry Summers and Bill Clinton are notable guys, and Cenk, if they're in there and if they've done something wrong, we'll do plenty of segments on them. But what do you think about this most recent attempted distraction?
Yeah, so there's a lot more where that came from, and there's a lot more evidence that came out just in the last 24 hours about Donald Trump's connection to Epstein. It's just like a tsunami. You know why? Because they were great friends for at least 10 years, 10 to 20 years. And we'll get some of the evidence on that in a minute, right? So I'm with John, obviously. This is hilarious, right? I don't know why they're talking about me. Could it be because you're the president right now? And you're in the files, and your own attorney general said that? In fact, you're all over the files. That doesn't mean he did it, but it does mean that a lot of people were talking about him in that context. So was Jeffrey Epstein on tape. Okay, we have that as well. Okay, so, and you're the one actively hiding the evidence. That might be why we're talking about you. By the way, though, if you release it and Bill Clinton and Larry Summers are in there, we'll rip their face off. Okay, so you'll be happy, MAGA will be happy, everybody will be happy, right? Because we don't give a damn Democrat or Republican. We just want to know, why the hell are you guys all hiding this? Okay, so this is insanity. This is the government of both parties going, no, we're never going to be honest with you. That if you can't see why that makes people more curious and more suspicious, you're not very bright, okay? Or of course you're assuming that none of your voters are bright and then you'll just be able to trick them. Well, now how's that working out for you guys? And the last thing I'll double down on is you got a list of hedge fund guys. Okay, John, you're right. First, I thought the list didn't exist. Second of all, I thought the list was fake. So why do you have a list of a bunch of fake people on the list made up by Obama, Biden, Clapper, and Comey? If you remember, that was one of his many excuses. So why are you highlighting a fake list? And okay, fine, let's put all that aside. Now you're saying, this is your third iteration of it, that there's some hedge fund guys, Wall Street guys who are on the list. Yes, we want that, yes, give it to us today. Oh yeah, you want it? Why wouldn't we want it? Like, who's in the hedge fund protection business other than you a-holes in Washington?
Yeah.
Like, no one else is like, oh, no. Don't tell us about the hedge fund guys.
Yeah, and you know Donald Trump is desperate to get you off his back if he's willing to give up those people that he loves more than anyone else.
Yeah.
So yeah, the entire thing is highly suspicious. Did we want to give Waz a chance to weigh in?
Yeah, Waz, real quick, yeah, on that stuff.
I mean, it's hard to parse this honestly, because I gotta say, like the kind of conspiracy stuff, I was highly skeptical that Jeffrey Epstein was running like some blackmail ring and Donald Trump was part of it and blah 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 blah. However, the guy's behavior more recently is pretty much changed my mind, because I think the old Donald Trump would have trusted the idea that he could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Ave, and his fans would still support him, and just released everything, and his name would have been in there, and so would have a bunch of other people. And if it was just like, yeah, I've been to parties with him, I've gone to his house, I was friends with him for 15 years. He could be like, yeah, I got rid of him in 2004. These other people kept hanging out with him forever. He could have just kind of moved on from this, because there are so many other prominent people in here. But his refusal to let it out, even though he knows there's other people to be implicated, makes me believe that he was doing something very, very shady with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, just real quick, Andrew Schultz said the same thing today, almost verbatim to what Waz said, right? And Andrew voted for Trump this time around, and even he's like, I didn't think there was anything, but now I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
Especially once they started throwing the squirrels around, Washington commanders, Hillary emails. And Andrew Schultz said by the time they got to Obama and how he committed treason, he's like, I'm sure he's on the list.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know he did it, right? And I'm in the same place as you guys. I don't know if Trump did it, right? And I would have assumed he didn't, because he seemed a little cavalier about it before. But the way that his hair is on fire,
yeah,
is making everyone think he did it.
The thing, I've never accused him of anything specific. I wouldn't do that without evidence. I'm not a conservative, but the line from him in like I think political reporting, they're gonna accuse me of funny business. They're gonna like he keeps going beyond just I'm in the file, to they're going to claim I did a specific thing, which if we were gonna do that, we'd have already done that. We've been talking about this for 3 weeks straight. None of us are jumping to be like, he had sex with this particular girl, but he is sure that specific accusations are coming. And we now know that he's known for months his presence in the files. That I think, again, I'm not gonna make any specific claims. I think he knows about something particularly damning that's in there. That is not just, you knew the guy, you partied with the guy. He's acting like, so again, all the way back to the Fox News thing. He was like, well, you know, they a lot of phony stuff could ruin someone's mind, or it could ruin someone's life. That's worse than just you hung out with the guy. He clearly thinks there's something damning coming.
Yeah,
that's all I'll say for now.
Super last thing on that, because we got to give you more of the evidence, is that it doesn't have to be either or, guys, because another leading theory was intelligence agencies. Now, if you're in the intelligence agencies and you don't want this released for whatever reason, what would be awesome is if Trump is in the files and you've got something on him, because then he's definitely not gonna want to release it and reveal what actually happened, right? Yeah. So if it's one of the intelligence agencies, they're like, if Trump's in there, they're like, yes, we got him, okay? That way you'll never see him.
Let's go through some of the additional evidence, not about his culpability with specific crimes, but just the long-standing, just great friendship that he apparently had with Epstein. We're gonna return to the topic of the letter that was sent to him, Jeffrey Epstein, for his 50th birthday, which Trump has claimed never existed. His excuse about it is changing, though. Take a look at this, see if it's convincing.
You maintain you did not write a letter for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday?
I don't even know what they're talking about. Now, somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot. All you have to do is take a look at the dossier, the fake dossier. Everything's fake with that administration. Everything's fake with the Democrats.
How are you supposed to trust this kind of letter? Just anything, everything's fake with them. It's all made up, even the stuff that's true. I don't like it, so it's fake. So somebody back in 2003 sent a phony letter to Jeffrey Epstein and signed Donald Trump's name to it? Why? Why? You were friends with the guy for 15 years at that point. You remained friends with him for years, and in the middle of your friendship, somebody posed as you to send him a letter? Why would they do that? I'm not asking a rhetorical question. Like, honestly, why would anyone do that?
I have a theory. Okay, so first of all, anytime Donald Trump says somebody could have done it, that means he did do it. Okay, so that happened. So he always gives the game away. He's hilarious that way. Okay, now in this case, here's what I thought instantly as soon as that story broke, and I think I said it on air that day or the day after. Ghislaine Maxwell is going to organize this 50th birthday party for Epstein. She's the one that goes to Trump and all of his other friends and goes, hey, can you send a note? We're gonna put it in a book, etc. Right? So my guess is a lot of those rich and famous people were like, all right, you write the note and then I'll edit it or something. That happens a lot, right? So probably she wrote it and all the references to enigmas and secrets that she, Epstein, and Trump know, right? And then he signs it, right? So he saw it, he okayed it, but Ghislaine might have written it. But I think the reason he's in a panic is because the pubic hair part is his signature. And when you see the signature, you're all gonna go, yeah, that's Donald Trump's signature.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the part that's most authentic. That's why he's like, I could have, but it got a lot of fake. I mean, you never know, somebody else could have written it, etc. And I think that's what he's referring to, but it's just my guess.
The thing that I want both of your opinions on, though, is like we're not surprised that he potentially sent a letter. They hung out all the time or whatever. What the interesting thing in this that I think a lot of people have started, I think the Bulwark has started to speculate about, involves JD Vance, who has been like oddly just not around for the past couple of weeks. Now I know he's been largely irrelevant to the administration this entire time, but like you would think during this most fraught period of the Trump presidency, JD Vance, his bulldog, would be by his side, but he has been like, you haven't heard barely a peep out of him. And when he does put out a statement, it's interesting. Like he had this to say when asked by Chris Hayes about whether the letter actually exists. So he tweeted, I have no idea if the book exists. Wall Street Journal won't show it to us. I have no idea if the letter exists. Wall Street Journal won't show it to us, which is not denying that it does exist, which Trump is doing. So he's not agreeing with Trump. He's just saying, I can't say for sure. What I find absurd is the idea that Donald Trump was writing poems to Epstein. And I find it equally absurd that a major American paper would attack the president of the United States without revealing the basis for the attack, which does seem to be sort of daring them to reveal it. And he's not saying it never could have happened or that if it happened, it's fine. He's just saying it's absurd to imagine that Trump would would have done this. And so if it does come out, then JD Vance wasn't lying or anything, and he can be as shocked and chagrined as everybody by the fact that Donald Trump did actually send these pervy letters. And it feeds into the idea that some people have been speculating about that JD Vance's secret meeting to go see the Murdochs, and the weird way he's been kind of hands off with the whole Epstein thing, and Donald Trump might be trying to keep himself clean, so that if Donald Trump goes down, which seems to me utterly inconceivable, but if he did, that JD Vance would not be tarred with the same Epstein like nastiness, and that maybe he could continue on as the new leader of the Republican Party. I don't know what you make of that.
Yeah, I think that it's not that controversial at all. You're 100% right. And so you don't want the stink of the Epstein files anywhere near you if you're gonna run for president, right? So if I was a JD Vance, I'd do the same thing. I'd be in a witness protection program. I'm actually surprised he made this comment because his first comment was, this is all BS, nonsense. Wall Street Journal with another fake news story. Now he's like, well, I don't know if the letter exists or doesn't exist. I don't know if the book exists or doesn't exist. So all of a sudden, not BS anymore. Now all of a sudden perfectly plausible. No, they all know it exists, and they all know that for some reason they believe it's coming out. And since they think it's definitely coming out, they're getting ahead of it by going, well, did we say BS? We're changing our story to maybe it exists, but of course it's fake. Everything is fake, of course, right? And I'm gonna jump in with one of the member comments because I like this so much. Wang John wrote on TYT.com, any day now Trump will go full OJ. I'm not in the Epstein files. But if I was, here's what the files would say about me. I love how, hey, you know what, Wang John, you're always funny, but that one was great. $100 Blue Apron gift card. If you're a member, rewards at TYT.com, and I know you are, go collect that because that was great. Yeah, Waz, go ahead.
It's pretty obvious to me, and maybe people will say I'm being conspiratorial. When the guy issues a clear denial, he doesn't come out and say, this is complete BS, it doesn't exist. And here's why we know this. These files are in the possession of Trump's DOJ, Trump's FBI, meaning theoretically, anybody that's as high up as JD Vance or Donald Trump himself can actually go see what's in there on their own. Like this is ridiculous. Like this idea that it's like sitting in some secret vault. No, it's in possession of the United States government. You guys are at the head of the government. Go in there, get it, put it out, and show us what it is. This idea of guessing and, I'm not really sure, I don't know. You guys are in possession of the entire file. All of this stuff, and like viewers need to understand this. Like I watch a lot of true crime stuff, right? And you could watch like a FBI true crime thing where they explain to you, the trial of the 5 families when they put RICO cases on the Italian mafia in New York, and they tell you, this is how we got the evidence. We got a fake electrician in this guy's house. We wired the bathrooms in this gentleman's club. We did this. We had this snitch. They literally will lay out the case, play you the tapes, all of this stuff on TV programs. They can do this. That's what I'm trying to say. Like they can literally let this evidence go. They can tell you what the DOJ had on this guy from the first case in 2006 when they compelled him to agree to a plea of 1 year of confinement. Of course, we know it was a BS country club prison, 12 days, 12 hours of the day. He got to do whatever the hell he wanted. But like they had some level of evidence to compel this guy to even take a plea deal. Then of course, there's the financial disclosures. Like the administration is in possession of everything. This idea that they have to do this guesswork and play around is absurd.
Yeah, I love that you like conjure this idea of like, gotta get all our ducks in a row, perfect investigation, like procedural. Meanwhile, Pam Bondi closed the case without talking to Ghislaine Maxwell. And like, literally never even spoke to her.
And Trump had 4 years to go through this case. We pretending like it's his first term.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you do it in the first term? Come on.
Exactly. No, the entire thing is ridiculous. And also, I'm not going to do like my whole spiel from like last Friday, but I don't even understand why they're like saying that the letter's fake. Like, if it was real, do you think they wouldn't care? Like, again, we know that they were best friends for literally years. They apparently did exchange letters and stuff like that. And every day, as more of the evidence of their bromance comes out, I feel worse about my male friendships. I've never maintained long-term a male friendship like this. I think, guys, we have to do better. But anyway, Trump's name apparently was also on a contributor list for a book for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday. Sorry, somebody impersonated him on the contributor list for a book celebrating the 50th birthday. And again, other people were on it, not just Donald Trump. Alan Greenberg, who headed Bear Stearns, Les Wexner, owner of Victoria's Secret. Bill Clinton had a letter in there in which he praised Epstein's childlike curiosity, which any way would be a better way to word that, Bill Clinton. The introductory letter to it from Ghislaine Maxwell is present. You can actually see the shot of it right there. And by the way, if this letter turns out to be authentic from Trump, which, spoiler alert, it was real, it wouldn't even be the only time he did it. Apparently, a copy of Trump's book, Trump, The Art of the Comeback, that belonged to Epstein was signed to Jeff, You Are the Greatest, by Donald Trump in 1997. Again, because they were best friends for years and years and years.
Yeah, last couple of things from members and viewers here, because I'm loving your guys' comments here. Nov 1775 Jim says, they used the auto pen for Trump back then. I thought he was opposed to that. It's a great comment on Super Chat. And then a YouTube member wrote in, Casey, with a good point, and we'll talk more about this in the next segment too. Of course he'll pardon her right after she says he's not on the list. So, but the very fact that Trump's former lawyer is talking to Ghislaine Maxwell taints everything about that conversation, right? So if she comes out and says, oh, don't worry, here's all the Democrats on the list, but conveniently Trump didn't do it. Yeah. I mean, who's gonna believe that?
Yeah,
right.
Every right-wing media personality.
Well, that's also true. Okay, but these days maybe not. And again, Rogan today. So when mentioned Andrew Schultz, Rogan today was like, yeah, what Kash Patel said on my show made no sense. They're obviously covering this up. So apparently they're a little bit harder to fool than Trump thought. All right, last thoughts.
Just another thing for people to keep in mind, Jeffrey Epstein, in so much as this guy had a skill beyond, trafficking young women, it was, these sort of tax havens overseas, like tax shelters, shady ways for people to hide their money from our government. People to hide our money, quite frankly, from us. And if Donald Trump, if all he was doing and how he got connected with him, because he didn't have access to the sort of networks of foreign bank accounts and all of that stuff, and all he was doing with Jeffrey Epstein was money laundering, I promise you he would have already admitted that. Been like, look, I didn't pay taxes, only dummies, only suckers. Like, that's completely in line with the Trump MO. The fact that he hasn't come out and be like, look, it was just a money thing. It just shows you these guys had an intimate relationship. There's no two ways about it. I'm not gonna claim to know the ins and outs, but these two had a very intimate relationship, and there's probably proof of said intimacy.
Yeah. Well, I think we should take our first break. We come back, we need to grapple with the possibility that Ghislaine Maxwell could be getting off after this.
They knew, and they let it happen.
All right, let's go to Super Chat first. 00083 writes in with a comment I rather enjoy, to be honest. Trump is trying to run away from the Epstein files like stink on poop, and he can't run far enough or fast enough away. Cenk, you were right, he's caught. So look, thank you, brother, for saying that. One of the things that I've been saying is he's gonna get caught this time around because Fox News is a talking point machine, whereas Rogan, Schultz, Theo Von, all these other guys have their own opinions. And they're gonna look into it. And they might not be perfect, they're not anywhere near perfect. They might not be great, and for a lot of them, they might not even be good. But they're not talking point machines. They just aren't. And if you think they are, or a host told you they are, it's not true. It's just not. So stop listening to people that aren't telling you things that are true. So if Andrew Schultz is a talking point machine in favor of Donald Trump, why is he saying he's done with him? And he thinks he's a pedophile who is covering up the Epstein files. And he hated that he bombed Iran, etc. If Rogan is a talking point machine, why is he saying that Trump looks guilty here? Well, and the Abrego Garcia thing was wrong, and the Mahmoud Halil thing was wrong. So look, it's not about me or anyone else being right or wrong. It's about you guys getting accurate information and not getting hoodwinked into tribalism. Oh no, I know, they all hate us, we should hate them back, okay? But you're not gonna win any voters that way. When the guys come to you and say yes, please, I don't know how many times I can say it. Take yes for an answer, brothers and sisters. Okay, Allison Ald writes in on YouTube member section, was. Speaking for America, Marty Mule, 1962 Martinez says, saw Anna on Tucker today. She did great. They were able to agree on a lot of stuff. Yep, we're gonna get to that story in a little bit. Amar Fati said, Anna was so sweet to Cenk when she went on Tucker. Well, I deeply appreciate that. Dylan Takayama says, Cenk is my goat. Wow, I deeply appreciate that. Grizz, my homie from the street, says, Anna on Tucker Carlson show is great. Trisha Briggs says, it's amazing how obvious Trump is. Everyone can see how guilty he is with all his deflecting. He's unbelievably unintelligent. Another thing I was right about. I've been at the leading front for saying, no, a lot of what Trump does can be easily explained by the fact that he's a dumbass. Okay, I know the controversy. No, he won the presidency twice. Only the great men win presidencies. Do they? They seem like a-holes overall. And a lot of them are idiots, including Biden.
Good catch.
Avenger Dragon 89 says, yeah, thank you. He on Twitch says he probably could have killed a guy on Fifth Avenue, but MAGA really hates being lied to, and to their credit, cares about kids. Yeah, this is the one thing he couldn't do. He could kill someone, but he can't do this. Back on the power panel, Cenk, John, and Waz with you guys, and also Bruno Beretta, Antonio Malone, and Damn Bam Bam 01 official. Okay, I like it. Thank you guys for joining. We appreciate it. They hit that big, beautiful join button below the video. We hope you support Honest Program and do likewise. All right, John.
Okay, we should probably get to this pardoning Maxwell story quickly so that we can preempt Donald Trump actually doing it. Let's roll this.
Would you consider a pardon or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell if
it's something I haven't thought about? It's really something recommended. It's something I'm allowed to do it, but it's something I have not thought about.
So we could leave that running for a long time, and you know what you wouldn't hear? Him ruling out pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell, because it's not gonna happen. And it should be easy, right? Super quick. I mean, she's committed sexual crimes against children. She's a trafficker. She's everything the right supposedly hates. And Donald Trump, who of course has wished her well in the past, doesn't rule it out and stresses that he can do it if he wants to. Now, Cenk, other than as a pretext, getting people ready for you when you do it, why would you stress that you can do it with someone so utterly heinous?
We're now having a real conversation about pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. Her lawyer is asking for it today, and he's very serious. So people said, we hate what Epstein did, and we demand to know all the secrets of the Epstein files. And they're like, Good point. Why don't we release the only person convicted for it that's alive now?
Yeah.
What? That's the opposite. That's the opposite of what we want. That is, and guys, just think about this. Just on that answer alone, that was one of the most stunning answers I've ever seen. Are you considering pardoning the biggest groomer in American history? Well, I could do it. If you said to me, and I'm president, you say, hey, would you consider pardoning Jeffrey Dahmer? My answer would be, are you mental? Of course not. Like, what? Why is that even a question? What a weird question, right? My answer wouldn't be, I could do it. Hannibal Lecter, I could do it. Charles Manson, I could pardon him. I could pardon him. Yeah. That is a outrageously bizarre response. And there's no excuse for that response.
Yeah.
It makes no sense at all. I mean, imagine, okay, look, the last thing. MAGA guys, you hate all the undocumented immigrants that committed crime here. Got it, they committed crime, like some did terrible, right? Shot an American, right? Imagine that they're in an American prison, right? And they ask Trump, would you consider pardoning this undocumented immigrant who murdered this young blonde girl, right? And he's like, I could do it. You'd be like, but why? It's like, there is no question that's a bigger softball than would you like to pardon one of the worst criminals in American history?
Yeah.
And you go, I'm thinking about it.
It's strange. Now, impromptu question, maybe it's an oversight. He meant to say that he would. So they asked again later and he said, I don't want to talk about that. I mean, he's gonna do it.
Wow.
He's gonna do it. He then said, I never went to that island, which is the funniest way to express that. And so I think he's gonna do it. I think why not? What's the difference? Why not do it? We're gonna run through some of his other pardons, by the way. And I think this one would be the craziest, but it's not like there haven't been a lot of crazy ones. And right now we're coming off of the second day of meetings between the DOJ and Maxwell in Tallahassee. And it's Todd Blanche, which is not who you would send if you just wanted to gather information. You would do it if you wanted someone with loyalty and a history with Donald Trump. I mean, what? Send a prosecutor, send someone with case expertise on Epstein. That's not Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche only has expertise with Donald Trump and what he wants. And also, by the way, they've made clear, we have no idea how much, if any, information they're gonna release from the interview. Like the idea that, they're finally talking to her, so we're gonna get like the whole transcript. There's no reason to believe that at all. They might release some redacted information or literally no information. They didn't go to get information for you. They went to get information for somebody. And since both Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche have been Donald Trump's personal lawyers, my guess would be that they went to get information for him. The only person in this entire story that he actually cares about. And we're gonna debate whether the pardon might come, but I just want everyone to remember, he's issued so far in his second term 58 pardons and 12 commutations. That's not including the blanket clemency for all of the insurrectionists, including the people who tried to murder police officers and politicians, the multiple people that have been rearrested after their pardons, the several that are dead after their run-ins with police afterward, all of those too. And the 58 pardons that did come include massive unrepentant frauds and criminals, people who committed terrible crimes, never took responsibility for it, and he just let them go free. They ripped off shareholders, they ripped off the American people, and he's just let them go. And so he has always shown a willingness to go above and beyond and using whatever power he has, including the pardon power, to help himself. That was true at the close of his first term as well for some of his prior legal troubles. So if he thought that he could lock down Maxwell, who is, as of right now, the biggest wild card remaining in the Epstein story, why would he not do it?
Yeah. So guys,
it's not gonna work. It's like this idea that to hand wave this story away, you grant a presidential pardon to the co-conspirator, thereby making her. And again, if she just doesn't give up the goods whatsoever, maybe if she comes out and she gives a bunch of details about a bunch of people that Donald Trump considers to be his enemies. And they find a way to frame this as, look, we got the goods, we corroborated the stuff, and a bunch of people get fingered, then okay. But outside of a bunch of people being fingered by Ghislaine Maxwell, It's not. It's not gonna work, guys. Like this isn't like people aren't gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, "Oh, Ghislaine is free. We're happy now. Epstein files are over."
Yeah, no. There's a smart way to do this. I'm afraid to say it on air, but a lot, some of you have written in about it, et cetera, too. And we just mentioned it a little bit in the earlier segment. She just has to give up 2 or 3 Democrats. Hide Trump, hide if it was intelligence agencies. Then think about it. If you're Trump and or an intelligence agency that did this, right? If she does that, okay, you get to blame the Democrats and go, ha ha, told you, right? You get to keep your whatever information you have about Trump in your back pocket, which you could still use later and hold over his head. You get to distract from the intelligence agencies, and you get to let Ghislaine Maxwell go, who was your asset or agent in the first place, right? So and then when you get to her lawyer's comment, David Oscar Marcus, and when he said, quote, the president said he had the power to do so, and we will exercise that power. What does he know something we don't? What does he mean we will exercise that power?
I don't know.
So that's why if they did it that way, maybe they think, okay, then MAGA will be satisfied. We gave him some red meat. And so what do you think, Woz? That's not gonna work?
I don't think so. I don't think 2 Democrats are enough. The way that this story has been framed by Kash Patel and Dean Bongino, it's not that there's 2 stray Democrats or 4 stray Democrats. It's that there is a global cabal of elites. We're talking about former US presidents, former Israeli prime ministers, Leon Black. Apollo, like the amount of money these people had under management, Les Wexner, like Bill Gates. We are talking about the most powerful and rich people in the world. For a couple of Democratic senators or Congress critters and Bill Clinton, who's about to croak anyway, and nobody has been disgraced and has no credibility to be like, yeah, that was the extent of the Epstein files. It's Bill Clinton and a couple of other Democrats. That's not gonna cut mustard, y'all.
I don't know. I hope you're right. I think Trump would find appealing giving her up if Maxwell's like Hillary Clinton went on the plane twice. And I think there would be a plenty of right-wing commentators, not necessarily some of the ones that Cenk recently mentioned, that would be like, oh, we can get a couple news cycles out of like some Bill Clinton details. I think some would find that very appealing.
Breaking news. Okay, I'm gonna tell you 2 stories. She's goner, she's free as a bird, okay? So it hasn't happened yet. But first, Newsmax's Greg Kelly says that Ghislaine Maxwell might be a victim. So that talking point has begun already. She's the true victim. She's the only one convicted, other than Epstein, who's dead. By the way, Epstein killed himself because there was no evidence, right?
Of the hoax.
Yeah, okay, so, okay, all right, but that's not definitive. That's just one rando, potentially, although that's a talking point, okay? Get a load of this. Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer says she gave DOJ info on 100 different people. Okay, now are they really gonna give you a list of 100 people? No way, no way. But that's a prelude to, now we can't show you that list either, right? But trust us, she gave us such valuable information that we'll use several decades later, right? And so that's why we had to let her go. Now this is like beginning to be a tsunami. Like overnight, God damn, whichever intelligence agency it is, they control everything. Because letting Ghislaine Maxwell go, as everyone is furious about the Epstein files, would be the most audacious thing the US government has ever done. Like if it's the CIA, that's the CIA going, what are you gonna do about it, huh? You thought there was a deep state? Watch this, suck on this deep state. We're letting the pedophile groomer go. You guys were super pissed about it? Take this kick in the balls. We're gonna let her go. If they do that, man, and if any MAGA falls for it, oh my God, guys, come on, guys, come on. So far they've been pretty good, and the independents are gone. We did not get to the polling on it, but independent polling for Trump, especially on Epstein, fell right off a cliff.
And Gen Z.
Yeah,
especially.
they're gone. I told you the independent voters are gonna flip. Of course they're gonna flip, right? Because why? Because Trump's gonna be a disaster. Like, you have to believe that the independent voters are all racist, fascist Nazis and will never flip, because you think that they don't think, even though they voted for Obama or Bernie before, they don't think at all. They're all morons, they're all whatever. And Trump's gonna do a brilliant job, so they would have no reason to flip. I think the exact opposite. I think those independent voters are eminently flippable. They're desperately looking for a non-establishment answer. They hate the elites. We're the non-establishment answer. And of course, Trump's gonna be a disaster. And that gives us an opportunity to go get those guys. Let's go get those guys instead of insulting them, for God's sake. And so if they really let Ghislaine Maxwell go, and they don't have a good enough explanation, this whole country is gonna explode. So, okay, let's see who's in charge of this country.
Let's see, and let's see if she gets a slot speaking at the RNC next time around. Anyway, we should probably go to a break.
Yeah.
But we have fun stuff coming up soon. Jerome Powell, turns out, is a master of physical comedy.
You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
All right, I'm gonna save it for when we're back in the regular show. This is one of the breaks, so I'm gonna read your comments. But there's shocking breaking news about what we just discussed. Okay, so we're gonna get to that in a minute. Unreal. Okay, here we go. Now, YouTube member Dragonline69 says, Fridays are my favorite, double Johnny Pie. Who could argue with that? Double pie.
I never turn it down.
Yeah. You can tell with me in the case as well. All right, anyway, Cat Lowe says, this is so gross, the victims have been totally lost and it seems like justice is a pipe dream. Why would anybody come forward about sexual abuse after all this? Unfortunately, that is another devastatingly good point, right? And God, they cover people up so much. Rui Ral says, for the powerful, says, honestly, I'm amazed that the list and the files haven't been leaked. It really makes me wonder how under lock and key it is. But the letter leaked, which was interesting, right? So now, so this is another reason why I'm not satisfied with the answer of, oh, it's just that Donald Trump's in it, that's why we're not seeing it. Because interestingly, all the leaks are against Donald Trump, but not against anyone else, right? And so now we're all diverted to Trump, and for very logical reasons. And no one's talking about the intelligence agencies anymore, or almost no one. So the leaks are very convenient in that direction. So I was gonna say we'll see, but we won't. Targum Unlimited says, all we can hope for is Jenks say, we got him. Down goes Trump, down goes MAGA, down goes Corpo bought left and right. Let's rebuild America together. Yeah, God, defeating establishment Democrats and Republicans would be awesome on top of everything else you mentioned. All right, Malvin Mike 44 TYT has a different theory on TYT.com. Maxwell will be dead in 2 weeks, guaranteed. If she's really giving evidence, well, okay. The hallway tape has already stopped working.
The guards are so sleepy.
Yeah. CB1 says, of course Trump will pardon Maxwell. What consequences would he face by doing so? None. Joseph Yakim says, wow, what an awesome power panel, thank you. Camp Corona Dad says, if you have nothing to do with the guy, then why aren't you releasing the files? Master of the obvious. Franco Castorone writes in, my hypothesis is that Trump did not sleep with the girls, but he laundered money for Epstein. So that is an interesting hypothesis, not a bad one, but Wands addressed that earlier with, he'd be like, yeah, so what? I made the money. Yeah, they gave me money to do something illegal and I did it because that's what a smart businessman would do. So that seems like he would brush that one off. But I think you're onto something as well, so we'll see. Again, we won't. Dirge, younger Democrats need to run on, I'm too young to be on the Epstein list. Actually, Ro Khanna's already kind of doing that. He did a video in front of Epstein's apartment going, well, I wasn't in there, but who was?
Nobody played the game better than I did.
All right, guys, back. Cenk, John, Waz with you guys, but also Roham and Moo Dang Man. So thanks for hitting the join button, guys. We appreciate it. Love having everybody as members and love that you guys participate in the show. And now, holy cow, breaking news.
Yes, almost instantaneous update to the story we were just talking about Ghislaine Maxwell and the possibility that she might be pardoned. She has already received a limited form of immunity. This happened earlier today. Well, we'll see how much we should freak out. So she was speaking with Todd Blanche again today for about 3 hours. That was the interview they did, and during that she received a limited form of immunity referred to as proffer immunity. We're being told by ABC News that it is commonly granted during interviews like this, with it basically meaning that any new information that she reveals cannot be used against her in future criminal cases. Now, bear in mind that she has already been tried and found guilty of sexually trafficking young girls, and I can't conceive of a world in which, absent Donald Trump granting her immunity, she ever walks free. But that said, there could still be further cases, even though she's already in jail, if she revealed new information. So it could be that this is just a normal sort of deal, or it could be the dipping the toe in the water of, well, we give you a little bit of immunity and then maybe we give you a little bit of your freedom and, oh, you're going off and having brunch.
I wanna know who Ghislaine Maxwell talked to, see the prison log before she decided to make this deal. I'd be very curious who is on her call list that decided, yeah, it's okay, you can do this. But then then it could have gone through her lawyer, so God knows. Because there's no, I would be shocked out of my mind. It is absolutely inconceivable that she's gonna be like, oh yeah, okay, for a limited form of immunity for future cases, it was Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, and Leon Black and all these guys, right? And oh, by the way, it was the CIA. She's not gonna say that, right? So which very, very likely what she's gonna do is give up people who are not gonna hurt this current administration in hope of getting a pardon from a guy who loves to give pardons. So we were joking about it earlier, then we got serious about it in the middle of the story, and by the end of the story, there was breaking news about limited immunity.
Can I give you just one quote before we discuss more? The lawyer, Marcus of Maxwell, says she didn't hold anything back. He references the 100 people thing that we talked about earlier. She referenced 100 people, which, man, she really was popular. I don't know 100 people my entire life. He declined, Marcus, to say anyone specifically that she mentioned and said, we haven't asked for anything. This is not a situation where we're asking for anything in return for testimony or anything like that. Of course, everybody knows Miss Maxwell would welcome any relief.
No, that's you asking for it. What do you mean you're not asking for it? And earlier we read you the quote of how he said, we will get a pardon.
No, there was no question mark at the end of it. It was an affirmative statement. It's not an ask.
Yeah, was.
Again, I just have a hard time believing this woman is actually gonna give up any goods. And if she doesn't, it's not going to quell the firestorm. It's just not. If she just gives some, all right, here's the list, here's 4 guys or whatever, and keeps it pushing, it's not going to work. People I get that people see this as a quote unquote conspiracy theory, but this is actually more than that. Epstein, they said, did something like $1.5 billion in transactions on his account in 8 years. Who was this money going to? Who was putting the money in his account, right? When it comes to, again, when the feds first raided his crib, because they rearrested him because the deal that they gave him was basically illegal back in 08 or whatever it was. The FBI said we've seized thousands of hours of drives of videotapes. This guy had hidden cameras in his house. Like, people, this is actual public information. This is what people are clamoring for. This idea that people just want to hear Ghislaine Maxwell say 4 or 5 names out of her mouth. It's not going to work. And then if she's actually, and then on the flip side, if she's actually allowed, as Cenk just mentioned, to actually snitch on powerful people, and God forbid, intelligence agencies, either here or abroad, like that just cannot and will not happen. So it's just hard for me to see a scenario where she actually does the thing that gets the public to believe that everything that there is to be known about the Epstein situation has been known and found out.
Yeah, and my last point is this. So she talked about 100 different people, according to the lawyer. Wait, I thought there were no clients. Didn't the Justice Department put that out? Like, what was it, 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago? That there were no clients at all and no one was gonna be prosecuted. Then which 100 people is she talking about? Guys, it's not paraphrasing, it's not little bit, it's not hyperbole. They literally said there were not just no list, there were no clients, and no one was going to be prosecuted. Now there's 100 clients?
Yeah.
And then Trump, being the ultimate dumbass, then later said, oh, there is a list, but it's fake. So wait, did you ask her about the fake list? Why are we entertaining the fake list? Like, what is this? They're not even, like, they're the world's worst liars.
If the Epstein thing was a quote unquote hoax, like Trump said, why is this woman in jail? If nothing happened, if there's nothing to see here, why is Ghislaine Maxwell serving a prison sentence for sex trafficking if this was a hoax? None of this spin is making sense. This is why they look like they are flailing, because there's no good way to skate around this.
Yeah. Well, why don't we lighten the mood? It's a very serious, very dark topic. Let's have a little bit of fun with the head of the Fed, a person you always turn to for comedy. Take a look.
We're just taking a look at what's happening. It's a tough construction job there. It looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Oh my God, that's so amazing. I love a person who doesn't give a damn about Donald Trump or whether he has a problem with the way you're responding to him. That being, of course, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, who, when Donald Trump pulled out that number to make it seem as if, oh, maybe he's got some sort of excuses we'll get into to get rid of Jerome Powell's like, no, that's not true. And we're gonna go to a little bit more of the reaction before we'll give you all the details, don't worry.
I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1,
3.2. This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
Now you're including the Martin renovation. You just added
our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no,
including the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's not new.
So we're going to take a look.
Oh my God.
That is literally me every time I listen to Donald Trump speak. No, that's what are you talking about? I love to see it. And Donald Trump's little defensive body language. I was like, no, it's somebody. It just came out. You wouldn't know. And then the dude whips out his glasses, instantly identifies the source of the lie that Tim Scott is pretending is true. There, and he's like, no, you're just adding in another building. And then Trump's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's it still counts. No, it was already built like 5 years ago. It was so good. Waz, you sound like you want to jump in.
No, it's just perfect. It's just Donald Trump trying to make a show of things. And Jerome Powell, is kind of a mini king unto himself, right? Like, he is pretty insulated in the sense that the people who own our freaking economy, the Wall Street people, are completely loyal to the guy. And if Donald Trump did anything, the markets and all of this stuff would go into a complete panic. Remember when he panicked about the bond market after his stupid, crazy tariffs? Jerome Powell knows that he's insulated from that because Wall Street has his back. And so he can go on TV and be like, this guy is full of crap. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, so when I first saw it, I thought it was AI. I'm like, wait, they're together? Because Trump's been insulting him nonstop. So I was already surprised that they were together. And then in those funny hats, right? In fact, our poll question, this is one of my favorite poll questions in the live chat. Who wore the hard hat better? Trump, Powell, or none of the above? Okay, so watch the show live. Be part of the show. You're crazy. 6 to 8 p.m. every day. All right, so what do we got? Oh, Powell, nice.
Trump got 10.
Okay, so he also reminded me of Dave Kohler, if you're an old school TYT fan, right?
A little bit.
Okay, he's one of the founders here. He said he looks like Dave Kohler with in the control room in the old days. While I'm talking,
speaking,
while I'm talking now.
No.
Anyway, that was one of the funniest clips I've ever seen. And you know what? Just when you thought the Federal Reserve couldn't be funny.
Yeah, these guys get comedy. By the way, I'd love to see the poll on the Ghislaine Maxwell pardon. I want to find out what the audience thinks. But we've thrown a lot of numbers around. What is all this about? Why would Donald Trump take time out of when he could be dodging questions about Epstein to hang out with a guy that he hates? Too late, Jerome Powell. Well, they were touring the renovation site at the headquarters of the Federal Reserve, where over the years, the price of the renovations has gone up. That is true. It's just that what Donald Trump was throwing out was based on a complete misunderstanding of which buildings had been built and how much it costs and all that. And in defense of Donald Trump, he can't be expected to understand stuff about construction. But anyway, so why would they care about this? Like, what's the point of it? Well, Donald Trump wants to fire Jerome Powell. He wants to put in somebody who will do whatever he says, like he has already done across the rest of the federal government, because he wants to juice the economy in terms of interest rates, even if long term that might not be in the interest of our economy or businesses or regular people or whatever. He doesn't care. He wants to do whatever he needs to do to make it look good right now, okay? Especially if he can capitalize on it, either economically or politically. The issue is that the Supreme Court recently signaled that Trump can't fire Powell simply because he disagrees with him on interest rates, but that legally he could do so for cause. So if there was misconduct or dereliction of duty, or if you felt like you could pin, I don't know, $500 million in cost overruns on the Federal Reserve headquarters on him, then maybe that would count. Again, it doesn't seem to be based on anything, and I don't understand how you could possibly claim that was Jerome Powell's fault. But at this point, he looks like he wants some sort of fig leaf, some sort of excuse that could justify getting rid of him. And you feel free to jump in.
Yeah, just real quick, guys. Look, the problem with Trump is I always think, be careful what you wish for, right? Because if in the middle of a hot economy you lower interest rates, you might get back to skyrocketing inflation, let alone the fact that if the tariffs ever come into effect, they're supposed to be August 1st, probably delay those, whatever, right? If they ever come into effect and you cut interest rates and it was a hot market in the first place, oh, good night, Irene, with inflation. So he's so simple-minded. Yes, interest rates, if you lower interest rates, generally the economy does better. Unless you're worried about inflation, but he doesn't bother reading the unless part. Right? So he keeps pressuring and pressuring. And in a lot of ways, Jerome Powell's doing him a huge favor by saying no. And he's done a pretty good job of shepherding this. One of the members wrote in, it's the best Trump appointment. And there's a lot of truth to that. And he actually navigated inflation during the Biden administration. I know that it was a huge issue and it really hurt the Democrats so much, but the rest of the world was worse off than we were. And Powell did an interesting and decent job of maintaining inflation in a place where it did not get crazy out of control.
Yeah.
So, but if you get a political guy interfering nonstop, it's gonna make it worse, not better.
And Donald Trump has already telegraphed exactly what he's thinking about this when, under Joe Biden, he claimed that Biden would put pressure on the Fed to lower interest rates to help himself out politically in the short term.
That's literally what he said about Biden and literally what he's doing now.
Exactly.
It's called projection.
Let me just read this one message that he put out after that meeting, and then we can discuss some more. Trump said this on True Social. The cost overruns are substantial, but on the positive side, our capital C country is doing very well and can afford just about anything, even the cost of this building. Let's just get it finished and, even more importantly, lower interest rates. And I learned a lot from that. Apparently our country can afford just about anything. So I suppose we don't have to do all the firings Elon Musk wanted. We can hire back all those people working on bird flu and air traffic controllers, and we can restore the funding to NPR and PBS because we can afford just about anything. And there's no reason, certainly no justification, to throw 12 million people off of Medicaid if our pockets are about to burst from all the cash that's overflowing from them. I mean, you cannot do austerity for everyone other than the hyper rich and then come out and claim that everything is so fantabulous that we have money for anything that possibly comes up, okay? You're trying to argue that there should be these massive cuts at the same time you're giving tax cuts to the wealthy. It just, the math doesn't math.
Yeah, was.
I mean, again, like all he wants is a lower interest rate. I actually think there's an argument to be made that the president should have more authority over monetary policy. Obviously, I can understand why people want to tell me to shut the hell up while Donald Trump is our president. Perhaps if we had a more, let's say, prudent and responsible president, I think it'd be completely fine and in line with what people have elected this guy to do for him to take that under his control. But I think the problem for Trump, again, and I gotta reiterate this, Jerome Powell's power comes from the trust that he has from the owners of our economy, like the people on Wall Street, the people that own the financial sector. They have way more trust in Jerome Powell's ability to navigate these times with monetary policy than they do Donald Trump, and how can you blame them?
Yeah, 100%. And look, I've got my own concerns about the Fed's governance and independence. But at times like this, I think, well, maybe they should be independent.
Yeah. Well, and related, people always throw around these other organizations that are supposed to be like, the norm is that they're semi-independent, like the DOJ or whatever. At times like this, I think maybe we should make that like written down. Like maybe that should be a rule rather than a norm.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I know we're out of time, but we promised to end a story, so we got to do it. So
okay,
and all right, let's do it, and then let's
jump into it.
Israel, right? Oftentimes when we talk about foreign aid that goes to Israel, at this point, I believe it's about $4 billion a year, on top of all of the military aid that we've been pumping into Israel over the last 2 years. I mean, it's unacceptable to me that we're doing that. And in the backdrop of that, you have the United States Congress cutting $1.1 trillion to Medicaid? Really? That's the problem? That's where we need to cut funding from? By the way, also cutting funding to food assistance.
So that set might look familiar. I assume that person does, because of course that's our Anna Kasparian who went on Tucker Carlson's show. That clip was from just the first few minutes of the interview. She's already hitting Trump on the spending bill, the completely out of whack economic priorities of the Republicans in Congress and in the White House. And she did have a lot more to say about the budget bill. We're gonna get to that shortly, but Cenk, what was your immediate reaction when you saw her appearance?
Yeah, so I loved it. And so, look, guys, I'll tell you the most animating thing for me, and then I'll tell you why it was also good for other reasons. For me, I'm obsessed with ending the genocide in Gaza, and so I will take any ally that's going to help me end the genocide in Gaza. So if you say I shouldn't and I'm morally impure, no problem. Okay, then I'm impure. Okay. And if you say, okay, I won't deal with Tucker, that's going to keep me pure. Great, then you're pure. No problem. We agree. Okay, but I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to end that genocide. And Tucker is as important an ally as there is in that, because the current president is not a Democrat, is not a left winger. The current president is a right winger. His name is Donald Trump. We do not affect his base. Tucker Carlson definitely affects his base. Okay, so if you want to move Trump, you can go on. In fact, today I went on a show where we were supposed to debate, but we largely 98% agreed with Richard Wolff, who's a really interesting professor, who is advocates for some form of Marxism, communism, etc. Okay, I'm a capitalist, and we had this super interesting conversation. We'll put it up on tyt.com/press. We'll also put this up on tyt.com/press. Okay, so I don't care if you're super left, super right, backs this or that. If we're say let's end this genocide, I'm going to ask for your help. But if you say, hey, who's more likely to move Trump on this issue? Professor Wolf that I talked to today, or Tucker Carlson, who Anna talked to? Of course it's Tucker, of course it is. There isn't any communist professor who's gonna move Donald Trump. Tucker has a shot at it. And if you say it's not a good enough shot, good, I'll take it. I don't care if it's a 1% shot, I'll take it. Then on top of that, she's telling everybody that they were wrong to cut Medicaid, they were wrong to cut SNAP. And then the other major issue that we agree on, the Epstein files. Why isn't it released? Why isn't it released? Pressure from the right, pressure from the left. So I thought she did a brilliant job, and I'm thrilled that she went on there.
Yeah, Waz, thoughts?
I don't really have time for the purity test people on the left, people who call themselves leftists, feeling like, oh, they can't be unwashed and deal with a Tucker Carlson. Look, like if you've been paying attention to the direction that he's moving, it's in a more populist direction. This guy will go on his show and say that Americans shouldn't pay their credit card debt because a 25%, 30% interest rate is criminal and cruel and immoral. And that's just a disgusting way to make a living for yourself, is putting people into that kind of crushing debt than killing them with interest. The war is abroad. Like Tucker Carlson is adamantly against the Iran stuff, obviously adamant against the war, the siege in Gaza, the genocide in Gaza. Look, I'm not with Tucker Carlson on immigration. Like he's kind of a little bit, not even a little bit, he's way out there. He actually thinks Bill O'Reilly is not white enough because he's Irish Catholic, right? And Tucker's like a psychopath wasp who like believes in the true Anglo tradition of whiteness. Like, yeah, for sure, his replacement theory stuff I think is racist and disgusting, but also I think it's quite stupid and easily disproven. When you talk about replacement theory, and you got a guy like freaking Ted Cruz who's Cuban. Like, what's not white about Ted Cruz? Who the hell is he replacing, right? Like Tucker has his problems, but the idea that you won't go to somebody who's got a major audience where you could get like 2 million people on a freaking video so that Anna could espouse the views that we've been trying to push for here at TYT for decades or whatever it's been. I think you were just complete idiot if you think that's a bad idea. I'm sorry, I have no respect for that take. Like the idea that you can't talk to Tucker Carlson because he has takes that you disagree with. I think that's utterly, honestly, I don't even think it's intellectually serious, Cenk. Like the idea that we even pay lip service to these folks, I think is a mistake. They're idiots. I'm sorry.
I think it comes down to what you use the time for. I mean, if you were to go on there and just like, Tucker Carlson were talking about how awesome the camp of the saints is or whatever, then that's probably a waste of time. You shouldn't, I wouldn't do that. But if you come out guns blazing, this bill was terrible, it's gonna hurt people, even focus on the fact that it's gonna hurt MAGA. Millions of Republicans are gonna lose their health insurance. They're gonna lose their food stamps. It turns out poor white people use food stamps at very high rates. If you focus on that, and then you maybe hit him on a couple things that we already know that Donald Trump is weak on, like the fact that he lied about being anti-intervention when he comes out like declaring he's gonna invade Greenland, and obviously he bombed Iran and all that, then that could potentially be useful. You use the access provided to you to get through to that audience on areas where you think you can actually move them. And I think that she again, that's why I was stressing it was just the first few minutes, she immediately was doing that.
Yeah, so I want to go to some of the other shots real quick, the videos. But I will say, I mean, we're living super trippy times, right? So I'm a capitalist. Professor Wolf that I mentioned earlier is somewhere between socialist and Marxist. It's a little bit complicated. And then Tucker obviously is way to the right of us. And so somehow the three of us in it, or you include Anna, the four of us, are magically agreeing on what the problem is. We have slightly different solutions, right? But like, yeah, the rich and powerful are screwing us all, and we don't run our own government. And so the fact that it's this amazing coalition that is not a coalition, but all agrees, yeah, we're definitely getting screwed, is just I grew up in a time when people did not agree to that. I grew up in a time when mainstream media ruled everything. And they told you the status quo was great and there was no problems and the politicians were not corrupt and the donors did not rule things. So now when you've got professors on the left, me and Anna and Tucker all the way on the right, and we all agree on all of these populist things. Again, we don't have to agree on all the solutions or all the different policies. It's amazing. To John's point, Anna told a story of how the woman driving her to Tucker's interview was really mad about the so-called big beautiful bill because, we have that one? Here, let's watch that one.
One of the drivers who picked me up, Jen, she mentioned the big beautiful bill that just passed. And I can tell she identifies as Republican and she wasn't happy with that bill. And I suspected that most ordinary working class Americans, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, are not happy with that bill.
Yes.
The $1.1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid, that's what she brought up. She brought that up. And I thought that was really fascinating. Now, if you talk to someone who identifies as a liberal Democrat, they'll probably think, these Republican voters, they're so greedy. All they want is tax cuts. They want to cut the social safety net. But no, actually, when it comes to ordinary people, there's a lot of agreement,
So I watched it, and that driver voted for Trump, but that's why she was so disappointed. She didn't think that her Medicaid was going to get cut. And that's what happens when you talk to people that are on the other side and you find out what's happening. Since we're in a little bit of a hurry here, I want to go to the last clip here. If you're wondering why Anna went on Carlson's show, here's your answer.
My feelings toward coming on your show went from I would never in a million years to kind of giving myself the opportunity to listen to your podcast to figure out who you really are. Because of course I had very strong thoughts about who you are.
Really?
Yeah, but I realized that it was based on clips that I would watch of you that had gone viral. And they had gone viral because they were offensive or you had said something that was
viral, like syphilis is viral.
Pretty much. I think that some of what you've been talking about lately hits at the heart of what I care most about. And that's the importance of this country representing the American people, the importance of the United States being a sovereign country.
Do you sincerely think that anybody on either side of the aisle, which doesn't even exist, but whatever, left, right, wherever, could watch what you've said for the last almost 2 hours and come away angry?
I mean, if you're Zionist, probably. This is the message that I want people who might feel angry to take away from me. I don't give a That's it.
That's got to be a meme, man. I did not expect her to end it that way. That was the end of the interview. So, yeah. And so, by the way, some of those clips that went viral about Tucker are terrible, right? But what was interesting is in that interview, he said a couple of times, I wish I hadn't said some of those things. Amazing what happens when you have a conversation. Super last one. This is Anna talking about Trump's fake populism in front of Tucker Carlson.
I don't think that Trump has carried out his promises because of, there's a lot of different examples I can cite, but the most recent is the so-called big beautiful bill. Yeah, there are some provisions in there, no tax on tips. It's going to be means tested and it also expires in 4 years, whereas the tax benefits that disproportionately benefit the wealthy are permanent. The no tax on, the elderly or Social Security, that also will expire and it's up to a certain amount. I think it's like $6,000 if I'm not mistaken. The child tax credit, I think, was just peanuts compared to what I think this country could afford in helping families. You want to encourage people to have kids?
Yeah.
Okay, best way to do it is to create an economic situation where couples feel comfortable bringing life into this world.
I agree.
And then no tax on overtime. That's another example. That's also means tested. And that's a provision that will expire in 2028. If you really want to represent the working class, you got to put your money where your mouth is. And I haven't really seen it to the extent that Trump claimed he was going to help the working class in this country.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How many people on the right knew that the tax on tips and overtime, that the relief on that is temporary, but the tax cuts for the wealthy are permanent? Maybe a lot did, and maybe some didn't, and maybe some of those folks learned that today, right? So that's why I love the conversation overall. Last thoughts, guys.
Yeah, again, I think that if you can use that opportunity, if somebody like Anna can go in, or if Bernie Sanders did it or something like that, even people I don't necessarily always agree with, like occasionally like a Pete Buttigieg will go on Fox News or whatever and use the opportunity for what it's worth or whatever. I think that's great. I still think that Tucker Carlson is a horrible person. I think that he made himself what he wanted to be over the course of his career, chasing an audience. He told them what he thought they wanted to hear. I think that he also told that he didn't tell them stuff that he knew to be true, that he knew they wouldn't want to hear, like about Donald Trump. He kept his true feelings about Donald Trump secret for years and then came out and supported the guy right before the election. And so I worry, like, again, use him for whatever you can, but he's a guy that has said what he needs to generate an audience for years. I don't know any reason to believe that he stopped doing that when he left Fox News. And I think he has been, as Waz pointed out, I mean, he's viciously racist. I think he's fairly anti-democratic. I think he's totally fine with a much more explicitly Christian form of government. And so all of that remains incredibly problematic and needs to be fought. I think that he's potentially a very dangerous person. Like, for instance, if he decided to run for office, I think he's somebody that needs to be taken very seriously for those reasons. But that said, he is influential. He does have a big audience. And I think that Anna, I think the way she presented the argument was very well calibrated to get through to the people who would listen to him.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say one thing that I don't know if people will find controversial. I don't care about the arc of his career. I care if he still has opinions that are problematic and that I'm gonna fight against, right? That I care a lot about. But if, he got to here in a weird way or in a disingenuous way or in a wrong way, well, if he got to the point where he's saying, let's stop the genocide and let's release the Epstein files and the American people are getting screwed and we should relieve credit card debt, I don't really care how he got there. I care that that's what he's telling his audience. I care that we agree on that. And I care, and I would love to get those things done. Whether any of us on the right or left is gonna get it done, it's a different matter. Waz, last word.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much as I think Tucker, like, again, there's a lot of, this guy has a massive audience. Like, there are many Americans who agree with the dude's message, right? And I choose not to be like deathly afraid or like, completely repulsed by the existence of these people. And all I would say is why Tucker Carlson is pretty dangerous is that I think an actual right-wing populist message, which is bigger government, social safety net for people, married with an insane xenophobic immigration policy, lock down the border, deport people, I think that would be massively popular. And I think that is pretty scary when you talk about Tucker Carlson. All that other stuff, I don't really get too excited about.
Yeah, actually, I lied. I'm gonna say one last thing. So I think that part of the reason why, as Waz was talking, I realized part of the reason why I'm not as bothered by, hey, talking to people who don't agree with you, is because I grew up Muslim in this country. Like, if I eliminated everyone who had stereotypical ideas about Muslims in their heads, I'd be talking to the wall, right? So like, I lived in a situation where I was forced to talk to people who had completely crazy ideas about Muslims my whole life. Not everybody, not most people, but was there a ton of people who thought, if I said to, how dare you, you Islamophobe, blah, 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 I'd have eliminated at least 40% of the population, I don't know. So to me, talking to someone who has wild, crazy ideas, even about you, is Tuesday. So what? Then what happens? And then you know what I do usually with those folks is I get them to realize, oh my God, it turns out Muslims are human beings. Okay, well, we made a little progress that day, okay? And that's how you make progress, by not sitting in your cave. Okay, that's my opinion. All right, love you guys. Check out Damage Report every day, live at 1 o'clock Eastern, on YouTube and everywhere else. Check out Waz on the Ringer. And Anna's gonna be back on Monday. We'll probably talk about this again on Monday. And of course, the show is live 6 to 8 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday. So check it out when you get a chance. And when we come back in the second hour, we've got an AIPAC story, of course. And does it drive me crazy? Of course, but is it gonna show you what is actually happening in Washington? Well, this is part of the point of having online media and the Young Turks, right? Because if all there was mainstream media, you'd have no idea what AIPAC's up to, but we're gonna tell you.
They wanna make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever.
Our audience has given us everything, so we couldn't be more connected. When we first started, people would start giving us directions and say, okay, the mics are too large, move them. Turn them into lav mics. I mean, they were incredible. And then one guy walked in and gave us a really expensive switcher and said, you guys need this, and walked out. Okay, it's amazing. They helped us build a studio. They did a $2 million funding campaign for us. And so they really are us. We do this show together to the point where some of our hosts are even former listeners. So when we say that the audience is part of TYT, we really mean it.
I think what the audience also appreciates is especially if they're members, they really get an inside look into who we are, our personal lives, what drives and motivates us. It goes beyond just storytelling. I think that what we do is allow our viewers and our listeners into our daily lives, and we give them kind of like this inside look into everything that we're passionate about and why it is that we're doing what we're doing, right? Like the motivation behind what we're doing, I think is important for our audience to know, and we're not shy about sharing that with them. And it's different from what people typically see in legacy media outlets where everything is kind of dry and robotic and there's really no personality or authenticity that comes along with it. Oftentimes when we're doing the show, I don't really think of it as me telling them stories. I think of it as us having a mutual respect and conversation with one another. And as I said earlier, I mean, not only do I feel that through the work I do, I'm informing our audience, but they inform me oftentimes as well. You know, they'll pitch stories to us. They'll tell us, you know, a certain perspective or angle to a story that we might have missed. And I love it.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like, tyt.com/join, and enjoy this. You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitzing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat. Animals are innocent. Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Such a big fan. Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
And this is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. I'll refer to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes. YT, guys. We're running a little bit behind, obviously. So I'm going to read some comments here and we'll take another break. But we have amazing stories coming up for you. You got to hear that AIPAC story. And unfortunately, the latest on what Israel's doing. All right, Maddie Warren 90 on Twitch said, Anna is the best of us. It's a wonderful thing to say. Thank you. Coops either became a member or gifted a membership on YouTube. We appreciate you, Coops. Drakeen wrote in, Anna, you cannot go on Tucker and do such an amazing interview and look that good. Cue the haters. Okay, don't worry, they're already cued. Shannon says, honestly, I felt a huge amount of pride as a woman in progressive watching that clip. I'm so proud of Anna. Thank you for saying that, Shannon, appreciate it. Deb Long wrote in earlier in the show, and she was so appreciative about this. This is on Super Chat. I won't be surprised if Trump comes out of the scandal just fine as he always does. And I think Maxwell will lie about his involvement to get a pardon. They're already laying the groundwork, shady AF. And then later in the show, we got to a point where now we're discussing the pardons. So nice job, Deb, on being right about that. YTP renewed, abolish presidential pardons now. Enough is enough, couldn't agree more with that. They wildly abused. And then lastly, Schrodinger's Dragon said, Trump lies to help himself and no one else. He's so selfish and throws everyone against him under the bus. Sad half of our people believe the grift. WTF. Why live here for the next 4 years? It's time to move to Europe for a few years. Well, look, brother, I hear you, and people often say that, and everybody to each his own. But for me, these colors don't run. Okay, I always stay and fight. And so, and I got a lot of hope. TYT.com/hope. They are going to look for a populist left alternative. For God's sake, let's give it to them. All right, we're gonna come right back with amazing stories about American politics and foreign policy. We'll be right back. Okay, let's go back to YouTube members. Kevin Shea writes in, my worry is that those files are being scrubbed to death. By the time we see them, there'll be nothing left except prepositions. So we're all worried about that, brother. You're right to be worried. Diddly D says, Jerome Powell is Trump's best appointment, hands down. You're the one I referenced earlier in the show, brother. Thank you for writing that in. Simon Moody's got a critique of going on Tucker. He says, stand beside Tucker and maybe you have a real impact on policy on Gaza. Wonderful, but because of that, you clean his image with many. He gets elected and the horrible policy he likely comes in it. Is that worth it? Now, Simon, you actually speak for a lot of people, so it's not a crazy point you're making, and I know that a lot of folks feel that way. But let's do the math on that. Let's do the probabilities. So we work with Tucker. Let's say that this happened. Let's say Anna goes on, let's say I go on, and we all work together and magically we stop Israel, which would be miraculous, right? And we save thousands of lives, tens of thousands of lives in Palestine, whatever we do, right? But that helps Tucker a little bit around the edges if he runs 3 years from now or whenever. Am I willing to stop a genocide and risk 2%, 5%, 1%, little extra boost for Tucker if he runs for office? Come on, brother, you gotta, even if you're right, even if that risk exists, to say that you don't wanna take that risk, so let's not work together on ending the genocide. And I know you're not saying that. I know you wanna end the genocide. I know. We're talking about risk calculation, right? And we're talking about costs and benefits. The benefit of stopping the genocide is so monumental. The benefit of freeing this country from AIPAC's influence is so monumental that you telling me that, hey, you should be worried about this other risk. I hear you, but can you see why I say, yeah, but brother, that is super speculative. and around the edges, whereas stopping a genocide is super real and immediate and saves lives. So it's okay to disagree on it. I just hope that you don't think, well, okay, then it's not worth it. You shouldn't do it, and you're crazy to do it, or you're et cetera. And you're not saying any of that. So, but that's how we get through this, is we have conversations like this and figure out what's the right way to go. And different people will disagree on the right way to go, and nothing wrong with that either. In the TYT.com member section, I don't have a clever handle says, I'm so proud to be a member of TYT and so proud of Anna's bravery to do these appearances with opposing sides. It's how TYT Army gets the true populist message out. Thanks for saying that. And yes, that audience is hearing a lot of what Anna said for the first time, and I'm super glad that they are. And they're hearing it in a way that they will listen to. Instead of being yelled at, they're being told, hey, maybe we might have some similarities. And do you see why Trump is doing this wrong? And the true populist message is this. I'm with you, I love that.
This is humanity, bitch, and you should appreciate it.
Drop it. All right, that's the latest we've ever dropped it in the second hour, 7:31 Eastern. Okay, second hour. Anyway, Cenk Uygur, Brett Ehrlich, Jules Schulzdesdev.
Nailed it.
All right, Jules and Brett are here to help us with the news. Brett's, of course, on Rebel HQ. All right, Brett, what do you got next?
All right, I just want everyone to know Jordan's supposed to be doing this. He's having some technical difficulties, meaning I have limited knowledge of what we're about to talk about, but I am a professional as far as you're concerned. So let's get into this next story.
Yeah, Gaza, they pulled out of Gaza. They pulled out in terms of negotiating. It was too bad. Hamas didn't really want to make a deal. I think they want to die, and it's very, very bad. Are you done with it? And it got to be to a point where you're gonna have to finish the job. They're gonna have to fight, and they're gonna have to clean it up. You're gonna have to get rid of it.
So, as you just saw there, Trump gave Israel the green light to, quote, finish the job this morning after the latest round of ceasefire negotiations failed once again earlier this week. We'll give you some more details about those negotiations and how they fell apart. But first, Cenk, what's your reaction to Trump's statement there?
I think that not only is it going to lead to massive tragedy, and we'll explain in a minute how that tragedy will unfold. I think that it also is a sign that he has made a decision to not challenge Israel anymore. And I think it will also doom his presidency. So that comment you just heard there, I think has monumental impact. But let's give you the rest, and then Jules and all of us will break it down.
All right, so more details on that. Earlier this week, Israel pulled out of their negotiations. They pulled their delegation out of Qatar. The US and Israel are unsurprisingly putting all the blame on Hamas, claiming they weren't interested in a deal. Senior Hamas official Bassem Naim disputed that, saying the talks had been constructive. Here's a quote per the AP News wire. What we have presented with full awareness and understanding of the complexity of the situation, we believe could lead to a deal if the enemy had the will to reach one. More on that. Hamas says it only will release all hostages in exchange for a full Israeli withdrawal and end to the war. Israel says it will not agree to end the conflict until Hamas gives up power and disarms. The militant group says it is prepared to leave power, but not surrender its weapons. That's according to the AP. But like Trump, Netanyahu is now suggesting openly that he thinks a deal is dead. This is from Netanyahu, quote, "Together with our US allies, we are now considering alternative options to bring our hostages home, end Hamas's terror rule, and secure lasting peace for Israel and our region." That from Netanyahu. And when he was asked what the plan is for bringing the last of the hostages home, he offered literally no ideas. Here is a clip.
What are the alternative methods to bring hostages home from Gaza?
Well, we got a lot of them out, and I've always said those last 10 or 20 are going to be the toughest, because Hamas knows what happens when they don't have any bargaining chips. And they really broke a deal. They broke a deal, and you're going to have to do what you have to do right now. It's a terrible thing. And I always knew that. I said, when you get down to the last one, they're not going to be able to make a deal. I think what's going to happen is they're going to be hunted down.
So meanwhile, far-right Israeli officials like Itamar Ben-Gvir are celebrating the dead deal by calling for a total stoppage of aid to Gaza and a complete takeover of the Strip. Also writing on X, quote, "Total annihilation of Hamas, encourage emigration, Jewish settlement." That from Ben-Gvir. Cenk.
Yeah, the heritage minister yesterday said, "Oh, you never feed your enemies. The British didn't feed the Nazis, etc." So he's saying, "Yeah, well, of course we're going to starve them." By the way, of course, not true. We do feed prisoners of war, and the Palestinians are not prisoners of war. They're prisoners of Israel. They're civilians. They did not sign up for this war, but they're promised total annihilation by genocidal maniacs like Ben-Gvir and the heritage minister. The heritage minister also said, "Yeah, of course we're going to come in and we're going to bring Jewish settlers in." Guys, this is not in dispute. They voted on this. They're going to try to take Gaza. They're going to try to annex the West Bank. Benjamin Netanyahu brought a map of Greater Israel to the UN a couple of years ago. They couldn't be any clearer. We are going for Greater Israel. So we're going to drive the Palestinians out. And so for a while, Donald Trump was standing up to Israel, and he was saying, "Hey, you know what? He cut him out of the deal that peace deal he made with the Houthis, with Hamas for exchange for one hostage, and he told them to bring their planes back." So I was like, okay, now we got a ball game. I don't know. I'm not positive which direction he's going to go. That clip tells you, no, it's over. He's going in Israel's direction, and he's saying, finish him. I mean, that's just, it doesn't get any worse. Because guys, think about the mechanics of it. It's finally dawning on some people in mainstream media what Israel's up to. Before, they were so happy to say, self-defense, you guys are conspiracy theorists, crazy, anti-Semite, anti-Semite. No way, no way, no way. And now Israel's like, I don't know how much clearer we can make it. We have several ministers saying we're gonna kill them all, or we're gonna drive them out, and we're gonna take the land. And here's a map of what we're going to do, right? And here we are, starving children to death, 111 dead. Actually, it's probably higher by today. That was yesterday's number. 111 dead of starvation overall, 81 of them kids. These are yesterday's numbers. 6-week-old baby died, a 4-pound baby girl died. And it's just going and going and going. Starvation right in front of our eyes, and they're admitting it. If we have Republican Congressman Randy Fine here, a US Congressman saying, starve away. I mean, we have people who are saying, yeah, we're fascists. We would like to murder these people and take their land. And so the entire time mainstream media was like, no way, no way, no way, no way Israel would do that. Well, now they are doing it. And some of them are beginning to go, well, I'm out of excuses. And to be like, the ones that I've seen, the sense I got was they were genuine. They really are shell-shocked that Israel is going to do what we said they were going to do from day one. They genuinely believe that was a conspiracy theory. Israel was so moral. They were just trying to defend themselves. They had to murder 59,000 people to defend themselves. And I guess they genuinely believe that ludicrous insanity. And now, if you're gonna do it, you have to actually kill them and drive them into the desert and starve them. And we're all seeing the kids starve every single day. Pictures are coming out that look like the Holocaust. So now, are you offended? Nobody's offended, right? That's insane to be offended now, because the pictures are identical. The kids are just skin and bones. And then how do you know they're skin and bones? Then they die because of starvation. I mean, what kind of monstrous government starves children to death? So what are they gonna do? Are they really going to do one of the most barbaric things we have ever seen almost on live television? And how much are they gonna get everyone to hate Israel? This is the most mental thing I have ever seen. If you're in favor of the Palestinians, first of all, you should, because they're human beings. Of course you're outraged by this. But if you're in favor of Israel, you should also be outraged. My God, what have they done to your country? Now the whole world thinks, oh, the most monstrous government in the world, that's not even debatable, that's not close. I mean, yeah, okay, we can have an argument about Sudan or North Korea or whatever, but right now, what the whole world is seeing is one government starving children to death. So it's about to get way more brutal. I mean, we're already at maximum brutal and they're gonna go past that. And when they do, and Trump goes, no, 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 Israel, 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 and you have to pay for it. Give me more money, Americans. Let's go, give me more money. Give it to me, give it to me. Here you go, Israel, murder more people. Kill them more, starve them more. No, they're playing with fire. America at some point is gonna say, enough of this goddamn thing. You're making us morally complicit with a goddamn genocide. And you're taking my money to murder these kids? No, Israel can keep going and Netanyahu can keep going, oh yeah, poke the bear, poke the bear. But one day the bear's gonna wake up, okay? And guys, not about religion, about governments. And this government thinks it's the boss of us. And right now, it definitely is. Guys, we just sent them $500 million just 2 days ago, in the middle of stories about how children are starving to death. And you know what the vote was? 422 to 6. Don't tell me our government isn't controlled by Israel. Don't tell me that's a trope. Okay, if it was a trope, they just made it real. 422 to 6 is not complicated. And so finally, why don't we have a ceasefire? Israel says, this is my proposal for the ceasefire that Trump is backing. Give me back the hostages. Okay, of course, you want the hostages back. I want the hostages to come back. And they say, in return, the Hamas says, okay, then the war is over, right? We've given back all the hostages. You've already slaughtered as many people as you possibly can, so the war's over. Israel's like, no, it'll be a temporary ceasefire. Then we'll go back to killing you. Who would agree to that? You can hate Hamas and still say that's a preposterous deal. Two things can be true at the same time. That's a ludicrous proposal. No one in their right mind would ever agree to that. Oh, I'll give up my only leverage, here you go, and then you go back to murdering me. What part of that is a deal? Oh, I would like you to all come out in the public and hand your weapons over. And how is that going to work? Oh, here we are, we're Hamas, here's me with a weapon, boom, dead. You're gonna kill them all instantly. Who would, okay, here's the peace deal I'm offering you. I'm gonna murder all of you, and then I'm gonna keep murdering your civilians. Wow, what a great peace deal. I'm so surprised they turned it down. Jules.
I mean, I agree with you emphatically here. And I also think we're missing kind of the insidious nature of the way Trump is looking at this. Because I think more than anything else, Trump would like the US government to reflect the Israeli government. I mean, the Israeli government is authoritarian, it's ethno-nationalist, it's run by a corrupt fascist who ostensibly does have some, or at least enough support, enough political support to enact a full-scale genocide. And I think when Trump sees that, he doesn't see enough of that in the US government. And for me, I mean, the US backing a genocide, funding the bombs, saying that like October 7th and Hamas and hostages justify this collective punishment on 2 million plus people is insane. And the biggest issue here, but I think looking at the way that Trump is looking at Israel on another level, where he's proud of the work they're doing. He admires Netanyahu for being a strong man, and I think it's exactly the kind of strong man he wants to be. And that to me is equally horrifying, because we look at the Israeli genocide of Palestinians, and that's like the worst thing that we've looked at in our recent history. And I'm terrified of wondering, well, what does the Trump camp want to do, given how emphatically supportive they are of this horrifying crime against humanity? That to me is this isn't a Trumpism. This is Trump communicating exactly what he supports, exactly what he wants, and the way he wants the US government to look in general. It's beyond terrifying to me.
Yeah, for me, like there's nothing scarier and more on the nose than saying finish the job. Like the trope of finality, like a final solution to the situation, just does not look good. Cenk, you mentioned the congressperson who was walking down the hallway talking about letting the Gazans starve. For me, it's about if America is supposed to be this like bright shining city on the hill and the moral authority in world politics, it's hard to pull that look off still when you're saying stuff like this and doing stuff like this. It has this whole like, it seems like Trump's just like flush it out, there will be no Gaza Strip after this. Seems like it's very cut and dry, similar to just like, the way he redrew the path of a hurricane. He wants to redraw the map of, the east side of the Mediterranean and just be like, yeah, this seems simpler and there will be more resort hotels. That's the stuff where it's like, item 500,000 on the list of ways that Trump and the way he's guiding America has really ruined a lot of its legacy. What's left of it, what we could convince people and get away with, so to speak. It's just sad, it's pathetic, and it's heartbreaking because people, I've seen enough devastation. I thought after it, I was like, it'll be a typical thing where after October 6th, then there will be a counterattack where the casualties will be 4 times higher than the casualties suffered by the Israeli side, and then it will end. Maybe there will be a change to the map, which is given back under some kind of ceding and increased occupation type agreement or harsher way to handle people. But no, this is worse than in my lifetime's memory, as far in my memory recently. Those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say is, I don't know when and how the American people can rebel, because as we're going to show you later in the show, AIPAC's the #1 donor to Congress, #1 donor to the Republican leadership, #1 donor to the Democratic leadership. So the politicians are a lost cause. They're gone. The politicians will not help us, and they don't care if you're on the right, the left, and they don't care if 90% of the country, because 90% of the country agrees to get money out of politics. They don't care. 84% want paid family leave. They don't care. They don't care. They're never going to change because they're all 2-bit crooks. They agreed to prostitute themselves for campaign donations. And that's for everyone, not just foreign governments, but big pharma, oil, etc. So those prostitutes are never going to turn around, okay? So then the question is, how do we, the American people, rebel enough where we go, I can't do it anymore. I can't ask Bob and Sally in Kansas to give money they don't have to kill children in Gaza. It's a bridge too far. It's the American government kind of breaking us and saying, well, now you guys are gonna have to do something crazy. You guys are gonna have to do some sort of rebellion that I don't know how you're gonna do it, but we will not represent you under any circumstance. This isn't just about Israel. This is Donald Trump and the entire United States Congress saying, we will not represent you. We are not America first. We're not anything but donor first. So what are you gonna do about it? They're rubbing it in our face, and I don't know what we're gonna do about it. But this is gonna get super ugly. Gaza's already one of the worst humanitarian catastrophes of my lifetime. And then it's about to take it to a completely different level. And then the anger in this country, you ask Bob and Sally 1,000 times over, now give me more money to give to this government. And it's not just that you're giving to a different government, but a government in the middle of these war crimes, this slaughter. No, the American people are gonna break at some point, and I don't know what's gonna happen when that happens. All right, we got to take a break here and tell you more. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, let's actually blow through the break.
Oh, okay.
Just because we're running out of time in the hour, and we'd come back at an awkward situation. So yeah, with time wise, we want to give it the time it deserves. So we're gonna go to this next story, starting with this.
If France is really so determined to see a Palestinian state, I've got a suggestion for them. Carve out a piece of the French Riviera and create a Palestinian state. They're welcome to do that, but they're not welcome to impose that kind of pressure on a sovereign nation.
That is dynamite bassist and Israel ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, back in May when he was in when France was taking initial steps to recognize Palestinian statehood. We'll get into more of what he said, of what he had to say about it. But first, some news about France's announcement this week. President Emmanuel Macron, according to the New York Times, announced late Thursday that France would recognize the state of Palestine as part of its, quote, historical commitment to a just and durable peace in the Middle East. Continuing, today, the most urgent thing is that the war in Gaza cease and the civilian population be helped, Macron said. His statement came as anger mounted across the world over the continued Israeli military occupation in Gaza. Operation in Gaza, I should say, and growing starvation there. Now, this is significant in that France is the first of the G7 nations to recognize Palestinian sovereignty, but some advocates and experts think it won't amount to much. We'll get into some of their comments shortly, but first, Cenk, what to make of this move by Macron?
Yeah, so first of all, vive la France. So thank you, France, for at least getting on the right road. Every nation on earth should recognize Palestine as a country. It's unconscionable that they don't. They should put a world of pressure on Israel. By the way, how did Israel become a country? Well, the United Nations declared it a country. So the United Nations should do the same exact thing. And the Palestinians actually tried this route a couple of years back. And then they were called terrorists for using diplomacy. Because it doesn't matter. If you're a Palestinian, they're gonna call you a terrorist no matter what you do. They say, this is unacceptable. They were so furious. How dare you try to do the thing that we did? So no, why does anybody listen to Israel? Unless it's corruption, there is no other logical answer. If there was normal times and Israel's a normal country, then of course, well, yeah, we're good relationship, allies, no problem, God bless, right? But in the middle of them ethnically cleansing and killing these people and now starving them, why would we care what they think? Oh, this is going to anger Israel, so Norway shouldn't declare the Palestinians human and that they should have sovereignty like every other human being in the world? Ireland should be quiet. No one else should be allowed to say anything about Israel. Why? Why is Israel the one magical country no one is allowed to say anything about? What an absurd idea. So I love what France did, and they should do it 10 times. Everybody should do it. And then on top of that, they should all send government official flotillas with food and medical assistance to Gaza. And they should dare Israel to attack NATO. Go ahead, I'm sending a French ship filled with food to starve those people, to feed the people you are starving to death. Because I'm not gonna let you do it. We said never again, and France knows never again, and this is never again. I dare you to sink that French ship, okay? But they won't because they're afraid of Israel. I don't know why what's there to be afraid of? What are they gonna do, nuke you? There's only one explanation, and that's corruption. Here in America, it's super obvious, but thank God in France, they at least are independent enough to say this. Now, Mike Huckabee saying, can you believe France is trying to put pressure on a sovereign nation? Oh, I know, Israel would never put pressure on America. They're so clean. So or is Huckabee saying Israel is allowed to pressure America, Israel is allowed to pressure France, Israel is allowed to pressure every country, but no one is allowed to pressure Israel? Why? Why? They never answer why. What an absurd double standard for only one country. Nobody would say, oh, I can't believe that people are pressuring Iran. I can't believe people are pressuring Russia. I can't believe people are pressuring Turkey. Or France. Everyone can be pressured except Israel, not only. Last thing for me for now, and because I really want to hear what Jules says. But this idea of why don't the French take them? The French should take them to the French Riviera. Okay, when you're doing ethnic cleansing, you are moving people out from where they live to take their land. Saying, okay, then why don't they move somewhere else so we could take their land does not solve the problem at all. It is the problem. And I'll give you an example. If in the middle of the Armenian genocide, the Turks were like, oh, if the French are so worried about us slaughtering the Armenians, well, why don't they give them an Armenia in the French Riviera? People will be like, are you mental? No, they should. stop killing them, and let them keep their homes and don't take their land. But when it comes to Israel, oh yeah, why don't you give them the French Riviera, Palestinians the French Riviera and let Israel take the land? No, that's a mental thing to do. That's like saying, why don't we help them in their ethnic cleansing? Oh, right, that's exactly what America's doing right now. Jules.
I mean, I think that the idea that Macron is coming out to say this, that France is coming out with this position is amazing, because it reflects that the global pressure that people who support Palestinians are putting on the world is working. I mean, Macron is a center-right neoliberal. Like, he doesn't really have a strong reason politically to do this, other than the fact that to anybody who's watching what's happening, the answer to what the right side and the wrong side is obvious, unless you have, as you pointed out perfectly, a corrupt stake in the process. I'm Jewish, you know, me and a lot of other Jews look at the situation and say, Israel emphatically does not speak to my interests or support what I believe in. A lot of, you know, I live in New York. A lot of New York Jews, we just voted in Mamdani. We love him despite all the slander against him regarding, you know, his position on Israel, which so many of us share. So I think seeing this and seeing what happens when you can separate from the corrupt influence, when you can separate from the weird political environment that America is living in, that frankly a lot of Europe is living in as well, it becomes really clear why France is taking this step forward, because otherwise they are just on the wrong side and they know it. I mean, there's it's this narrative that Palestinians are terrorists and all Palestinians are members of Hamas, and again that this collective punishment is reasonable and justified and you know it supports some kind of peace is insane. Palestinians are stateless, occupied people for decades, and it is Israel's fault. And now they are being slaughtered on a level that they have not been slaughtered at in their history. And so when we all watch this happening, it's at the very least the tiniest bit refreshing to see a major world power, a NATO member, step in and say, yeah, you guys are wrong. This is horrifying, and they are a legitimate people with a legitimate right to their land. I actually don't know if that's how far they're going to say that they have a legitimate right to their land, but even any movement here is good. Any movement here could maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, given enough momentum, slow down or even, God willing, stop the genocide. You know, obviously, I think what France is doing is symbolic at best, but even that symbolism is better than nothing. You know, watching what the US is doing is again horrifying and terrible, and you know, it's the least that a single country could do is at least recognize the Palestinians' right to exist.
Yep. So I'm just gonna kind of fill in some of the blanks in here. So after news of Macron's decision broke, reporters asked Trump for his take, and this was Trump's response to that.
Counterproductive to France, for France to say that they would recognize the Palestinian state. Macron said that yesterday.
Look, he's a different kind of a guy. He's okay. He's a team player, pretty much. But here's the good news: what he says doesn't matter. You know, it's not going to change it. Well, he made a statement, France, Macron. His statement doesn't carry any weight. He's a very good guy. I like him, but that statement doesn't carry weight.
All right, so he's a good guy. He's a team player who just contradicted you, who are supposed to be the leader of the team, but also it doesn't matter because his opinion doesn't matter anyway. Cenk, your response to that?
I mean, classic Trump, but in that case, he's not wrong. We're the ones funding the genocide, so it doesn't really matter what France does. It matters what we do. And I just want to comment on what Jules said really quickly. Guys, when we say over and over again on the show that don't make it about religion, this is about a foreign government, it isn't about Jews. That's not just saying that as a political correctness or whatever. That's factual, right? So the peace movement had so many Jewish Americans in it from day one. I don't want to list everybody, etc., but who's the #1 defender of Palestinians in my lifetime in American politics? It's actually not Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar. It's Bernie Sanders, right? He's the first guy and a presidential candidate. In a debate, when he said it, I couldn't believe it. He started talking about Palestinians like they were human beings. And you think like, what? That's so simple and the bare minimum. But no politician in my lifetime had ever done that. I was floored by it, right? And I can give you 1,000 examples. Robert Greenwald with an amazing movie, and you should please check it out at bravenewfilms.org. It's about journalists that have been killed by Israel in Gaza. Jules is 100% right. That's the moral movement the Jewish Americans have always been part of. And we all gotta stick together as Americans and say, not on our watch, not now, not ever. We said never again, and we can't do this. We all got to work together to stop this genocide, and don't listen to Trump, don't listen to our politicians. Actually be the good, decent people that I know Americans are. Fight back against this, and somehow, miraculously, let's try to win. Because if Macron doesn't have a voice, at some point, the American people need to have a voice and say, that's enough. If you're not gonna stop this, we're done with you. All right. Speaking of that, we're done on this show. As usual, I ran long. Okay, we're gonna do a bonus episode, and we do have that AIPAC story that's depressing for you in the bonus episode. So you have that to look forward to. All right, guys, hit the join button below. We'll see you there.